Hi, and welcome to our new video. This is the Philips Series 5000. We have reviewed this shaver for you, and you can find out everything you need to know in this video, so just stay tuned. Let's get started with the Series 5000. Before we get to the practical part, we'll first give you an overview of the product in our Features and Technology section. The Series 5000 is a rotary shaver. As the name suggests, it has a number of rotating blades, 3 to be exact. These blades are built into movable plates and are also flexible within themselves. Together with the shaving head, which is flexible as well, the shaver can follow the contours of the face well. The shaver can be used for both dry and wet shaving and is waterproof so that it can also be used in the shower. A precision trimmer is integrated into the device for fine trimming or pre-trimming. This can be folded out as required and is simply pushed back into its original position when the job is done. Compared to other shavers on the market, the rechargeable battery delivers a pretty decent performance. 60 minutes of shaving time is available on a full charge. It then takes just as long, so 60 minutes, to fully recharge the battery. If you're running low, the shaver also has a quick charge function. This means you can charge it for 5 minutes in order to get enough power to complete a short shaving cycle. You can keep track of the battery status via the display, which shows 3 levels, so that you can estimate when the device needs to be recharged again. Unfortunately, there is no mains operation. Accordingly, the shaver will not work when it is in charging mode. To prevent the battery from discharging accidentally, the device also has a key lock. Simply press and hold the on button for a few seconds in order to activate the locking mechanism. As a shaver from the Series 5000, Philips already has a few features. A power adapt sensor measures the hair density and automatically adjusts the cutting power accordingly, which should produce an even shave. As far as the scope of delivery is concerned, the Series 5000 comes with a solid but basic package with a few little extras. In addition to the power adapter and a cleaning brush, there's also a high-quality travel case included. There is also a cordless cleaning station and a cartridge with cleaning fluid as a special bonus. However, if you don't want this and prefer to do the cleaning yourself, this shaver is also available without a cleaning station. By the way, you can find all the links in the description below the video. You will find the product there as well, of course. Let's get into detail now. We took a closer look at the shaver. There's nothing to complain about in terms of workmanship. All parts fit neatly together and make a well-made impression. With Philips shavers in particular, it has to be said that the devices look a little more fragile than the competitor devices from Braun. But in the end, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Otherwise, the Series 5000 has a slim handle, which means that the shaver fits comfortably and securely in the hand. In terms of operation and handling, the shaver benefits from the fact that the blades and head are movable. As a result, it follows the contours of the face well. This is a fundamental advantage of rotary shavers, which is why they work particularly well on angled areas, such as the chin. The disadvantage, on the other hand, is that rotary shavers are somewhat more difficult to use than foil shavers. Why? Because in order to use a rotary shaver effectively, you have to shave using a special technique in which you move over the skin in small circular movements. You do get used to this technique over time, but it's not always that easy to do and can be a bit tiring. Apart from that, there's not much to consider while operating the device. Everything works simply and intuitively. Another useful feature for your daily routine is the integrated precision trimmer. In our opinion, it also does its job very well. It's a shame that it can only be used from above. If you approach it from below, the trimmer simply folds away and can therefore only be used to a limited extent. We would have liked it better if the trimmer could be fixed in all directions when folded out. A great strength of the Series 5000 is that it is very comfortable to work with. Although it is comparatively heavy at 205 grams, it has little to no vibration in the handpiece, and the blades get lukewarm after 2 to 2.5 minutes of shaving at best. At around 56 decibels, the shaver is also one of the quietest in our test and is okay in terms of its noise. Although it sounds quite high-pitched, it is otherwise round and easy to get along with. And now let's see what our colleague Chris has to say. He put the Series 5000 to the test for us in everyday use and gained a lot of experience in the process. Yes, I've been testing dozens of different razors for weeks now and came to one important conclusion. And this basically applies to all the razors I've tested. Namely, don't believe the advertising. The advertising suggests that you basically go over it once and all the hair is gone. This is simply not the case, regardless of whether you have a razor for 50 or one for several $100. So what exactly does that mean? Basically, there are differences between the individual razors in the sense of one shaves a little better and the other shaves a little worse. But they all have the same basic problem. That is, that they do shave, but in certain places, such as the neck, a few hair may remain. I would therefore recommend, and this applies to all devices, shave at relatively short intervals. In other words, every day or at least every 2 days. And if you can't or don't want to do this, then pre-trim your beard at least once and then just do the finishing touches with the razor. So let's get down to the Philips 5000 and I'll go through the points with you. First point, the Series 5000 feels super comfortable on the skin. Better than the Braun devices, and I would also say better than its little brother, the Series 3000. So all in all, you can say that this is one of the most comfortable shaves you can get. My second point, and as you can already see, the blades are embedded in small plates and the plates are a bit protruding at the bottom. As a result, I can't really see what I'm doing when I stand in front of the mirror and try to shave. That's a bit of a shame. It could be better, but it's not the end of the world either. The third point is the feeling of safety, which I think is very good with this device. At no time did I have the feeling that I could cut myself with it, or anything like that. I have to say that it did tug once or twice, but it was not a big deal in the end, at least from my point of view. I took a liking to the device in terms of skin irritation, but I was quite satisfied with all other Philips products too. Don't get me wrong, if I go over it 20 times, my face will glow red, like the sun at dawn. But the crucial point is that the Philips devices somehow have a mechanism that reduces skin irritation a little. You notice that, especially in comparison to the Braun appliances. What also works a little better with this appliance than with the Philips 3000, for example, is the shaving result. It's not quite on par with the higher-end Braun models, but it's already a step up. How about wet shaving? That's another point that I can answer across all devices because I don't think there were any major differences between the individual shavers. What I can say is, yes, you can do it, and yes, it works. But you also have to ask yourself, does it make any sense at all? And that's the big question in my opinion. Personally, I think that if I'm going to put some shaving cream on my face anyway, then I might as well use a wet razor and end up with a better result than with an electric one. However, there is an advantage for all those who like to shave in the shower. You don't cut yourself as quickly. I don't want to give the impression that you can't cut yourself with it, but not as quickly as with a wet razor. Of course, this is especially advantageous when you're shaving in the shower and don't have a mirror available. And as a reminder, you can find the link to the product in the description below the video. And if the video was helpful to you, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. To ensure that the shaver can do its job for as long as possible, it is of course important to clean it regularly. To do this, simply press the small button on the front. The shaving head pops up, and you have the option of carefully tapping it out and then rinsing it under running water. Basically, this is all easy and no problem. On the other hand, we find that the design is somewhat prone to breakage, and that tapping out the clipper with the shaving element folded out like that doesn't work so well in the end. Admittedly, you can pull off the shaving element, but still, we wonder how long this joint will hold. Of course, you can also use the supplied cleaning station for cleaning. Simply insert the cleaning cartridge, close the lid, place the shaver into it, and switch it on. Cleaning then takes about a minute, and the shaver is fresh again. Don't forget to let the shaver dry thoroughly afterwards. Depending on how often you use it, the cartridge lasts between 1 and 3 months, which can also be tracked via a small display. However, it should be noted that you don't necessarily need a cleaning station. Cleaning by hand also works very well. Nevertheless, the station is a nice feature and leaves a good impression. It is a bit of a shame that the Philips cleaning stations are kept quite simple. While the stations on Braun appliances offer other functions in addition to cleaning, such as charging the shaver. Philips has only included the core function. On the other hand, Philips offers a cordless use and the system is relatively uncomplicated. Let's move on to the blades, and as is the case with blades, they eventually become blunt. The manufacturer therefore recommends changing the blade system every 24 months. Until then, however, you should actually have some peace of mind. The built-in steel precision blades are self-sharpening and thus counteract wear and tear. Let's come to the conclusion. With the Philips Series 5000, you get a shaver in the mid-price range that lives up to this classification in most regards. A mains operation would have been nice, and the slightly protruding shaving head sometimes blocks the view a little. Otherwise, however, the performance is good for a rotary shaver, including the shaving result. It also feels comfortable on the skin and performs well in terms of skin irritation. All in all, it can be said that the Series 5000 comes very close to its big brother, the Series 7000. There are only a few differences in the scope of delivery and features, so if you can manage without any bells and whistles and also feel comfortable with rotary shavers and the associated shaving technology, you will certainly be satisfied with this shaver.
So,
So we checked
diese
out this
Lasur
shaver
habe
for
für
you.
euch
If you are
gecheckt. Wenn
interested
euch
in the
das Produkt
product,
interessiert,
take
dann
a look at
schaut
the
mal
description
unter
below
den
the video. You'll
Videobeschreibung.
find all the
Dort
links
haben wir es für
there.
euch verlinkt.
Otherwise,
Ansonsten
stay
bleibt gerne noch
tuned.
mal kurz dran,
Our
denn
end
in
card will provide a
Endcard
few
gab es noch ein
interesting
paar
suggestions
interessante
for you.
Videovorschläge.